So I wasn't sure what I want to do for a video this week. I've got a lot of longer video ideas that I'm trying to work on, but I haven't had a lot of time recently, as sometimes happens. Usually for some of these longer videos, I have to have it filmed on Saturday in order to have it ready to upload by Wednesday. And I wasn't able to do anything on Saturday for making videos, so I had to come up with something a lot shorter and quicker to make. And that's actually when I ended up getting an old email alert that I had set up a long time ago, telling me that there was another planet deck being sold on Craigslist. And that's this guy here. And this is for 25 bucks. And this is really cool because this is actually one of my old decks that I pressed up and sold to Other Planet between 5 and 6 years ago. It was really cool. So I'm really excited to take a look at how it's held up. And I was able to talk a little bit about the guy who sold it, so I know I have a pretty good idea of where it came from and whose it was and what sort of writing it got to see. So let's take a real close. So let's take a closer look at this guy. So this board is it's from the line called the DH Custom, but more specifically, it's from a group of boards called the Cosmic Midnight boards, and that is because that's the name of the color of this Formica. It's a silvery gray. And we actually only made about 7 Cosmic Midnight boards because the color was discontinued by Formica. So this is one of the Cosmic Midnight boards, and this is another one. This is brand new. I never sold this one, and it's had this plastic on it this whole time. So this is a brand new condition, and this is 5 or 6 years old. So this is what it looks like brand new. That color is just really nice. Really like the Cosmic Ignite. Brand new deck. Normally I sold these boards to Other Planet directly, with with most of my DH custom boards, and then Other Planet then sold them to riders with trucks on them. And so I sold boards with grip and boards without grip. So this is not my grip job that I did, but it looks pretty good. And see, it's got another plant sticker there. But what's interesting about how it's set up is actually the trucks, because these are a much later series of trucks than the ones we had available at the time that this deck was made. So that could mean that these trucks are actually not the original trucks that were set up on this deck, that it's actually gone through more than one pair of Other Planet trucks. Or it could mean that this board was not set up until we were far enough along to have these particular trucks. So, I've taken a look at the condition of it, and it's actually pretty good. I've checked for DLAM. That's a pretty nice gouge there. I've checked for DLAM along all the edges, and I don't see any DLAM, which is really good. So I'm really excited because like when I bought this, I was almost expecting to cut it up to see how far DLAM got into it and stuff, and just to do destructive testing. But there doesn't seem to be any flaws I can see on the outside that would make me want to go and take a look on the inside. Seems like there's not a whole lot of damage to it. So the most damage is on the nose and the tail. Obviously it would have hit some curves in its day. Got a lot of scratches on the bottom. You can see that. It's very, very, very scratched up. So one thing about Formica that's really cool is that it's incredibly abrasion resistant compared to a lot of other board building materials that are out there. So it can hold up to scrapes and scratches, and way better than wood, a lot better than composites, and especially, you know, this would probably be, you know, pretty decent with this much abuse if it were maple deck, but for a birch deck, which is less dense of wood, this could have torn it up pretty good. So it's got, I mean, none of these scratches are deep. This is just completely cosmetic damage, which is pretty cool that it was able to hold up with that much abuse. And I mean, look, it's only in this area right here that it's even worn deep enough to be through the color, which is, by the way, it's just a printed color on the Formica. Formica is actually it's like a resin paper, and the top layer of paper will have the pattern print on it. And let's see, and then the other side, it's actually got a big nice chunk taken out here. So that's all in pretty good shape. So the trucks are unfortunately not in quite as good a shape as the deck is. It's got its own set of cosmetic issues. Like you can see, it's got scrapes on the hanger, scrapes on the base plate, and nicks and stuff. That's overall, that's not bad at all. Hardly any bad cosmetic damage. They're practically, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is like new in terms of cosmetic damage. It does have a few issues with how much the hanger's worn in. So as you use the hanger, as you use the trucks, it scrapes and slides in the same spots over and over and over, and it slowly removes face material from the hanger, and even it actually removes material from the base plate as well. You can see inside there, right there and there, worn right through the anodization layer, and you can't quite see, but the entire center as well has been worn through the anodization. So it's worn down the plastic and worn down the hanger a little bit. It's not bad amount of damage at all. I mean, it's really easy to address. You can tighten this up a little bit, and that'll help a lot. Or what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some shims in there, and it'll be like brand new performance. But it definitely did see a little bit of wear, which is interesting to look at. I have a pretty good idea of who, maybe not exactly who was riding the trucks, but the type of riding that this board would have seen, because I have an idea of who might have owned it by talking to the person I bought it from. So it sounds like it was a friend of the owner's son, the owner of Other Planet Skate's son, who would have been the original owner of this deck, and who would have been responsible for most of his wear. And then they would have sold the deck to, or given the deck to one of their friends, who was the person I got it from. So, I know that I'm familiar with the type of riding that group of riders did, even if I'm not familiar with the names or who all was riding with that group. But I definitely, I'm familiar with how they rode. So by seeing this amount of damage, I can estimate how long this deck has been ridden. So even though it's 5 or 6 years old, this deck was definitely not ridden for more than 2 seasons. It either saw one really good summer with lots of riding with this as the primary kicker, or it could have seen 2 summers where it was you know, part of the main quiver. But it was really it wasn't really used too extensively past a year is the main takeaway. So that's a little disappointing. I would have liked to have seen it just totally thrashed, completely, you know, almost completely unusable in the amount of damage it took and how well lived it was and all that sort of stuff. But it's still cool to see it back. My plans for it is I'm going to take this deck and I'm going to keep it right next to this guy, and that'll just be a really cool really cool thing to have. I'll have this old deck that lived its life, and I'll have this deck which is brand new. And I'm going to take the trucks off, and I'll refurbish the trucks, and I'll sell them off to some kids in the neighborhood who want to buy other Planet trucks but can't afford the full price. So since I bought this whole complete for like 25 bucks, I'll probably sell these trucks to one of the neighborhood kids for like 30 bucks after I refurbish them, which is a pretty good deal. And they're even 8mm 8mm trucks, which is even better. So I'm actually really happy to see how well the deck has held up. It really helps make me a lot more confident that the decks I'm sending out are lasting for the people who are buying them from me, and that I'm not making any mistakes with my design or anything like that, or my material choices or anything like that. It just really makes me a lot more confident in the decks I'm building when I can see a deck that was made, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, and it looks as good as this one does. So that makes me really, really happy. And then speaking of decks, here is here's a Braincleaner. All right, so this is the first of the finished Braincleaners. So this is the newest decks I'm making. This is one of 10. It feels really good. And so the rest are, this one's done, and the rest are very, very close to being done. There's about half of them that still need to have the drills, or the truck mount holes drilled out, and the rest of what they need is just the final finish sanding. So I've already sanded off the chamfers. I've routed in rounds. I've routed, you know, the cutouts, and I've done rough sanding to remove bulk material. So it's just the finish sanding pass that needs to be done, and then they're ready to put grip on and ready to put trucks on, and they're ready to go out, which is real exciting. But now I've run into another problem, which, can you believe it? Other Planet trucks is out of 8mm hangers. So that's going to be the size of the axle right here, and 8mm is the standard size. They do have 10mm, which I personally don't have any problems with 10mm because I've got lots of 10mm stuff. But for everyone else, basically, unless you already have 10mm gear, you're going to want 8mm gear. And so I'm not going to be sending these out until I'm able to get 8mm trucks again. So another delay. I'm going to have to talk to Other Planet, figure out when they might be having 8mm trucks in again. They're probably going to have to do another manufacturing run, which could take months. But, you know, spring's always the time where you want to have, you know, stock ready by for this industry, for selling longboards. So hopefully, so yeah, I would bet that before spring they're gonna have trucks available again. But yeah, so looks really great, feels really great, and they're almost ready to be sold. So there we go. That's the update on the Braincleaner project. That's the look back at the previous board line that I did, the DH custom line, and how that's held up. And so yeah, because this has held up so well, I'm just so glad, because it makes me so much more confident in what I'm building now, especially since I've learned so much since I've built these things. So feels really good. I'm really happy. I'm really confident. And there we go. Longboard technology over and out.